wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Rizal bin Shamsuddin, and today I'll be explaining on how effective boards promote the interests of shareholders and stakeholders. I will begin with the introduction. The shareholder and stakeholder perspective are the most relevant approach to analyze the firm's corporate governance. The key aim of corporate governance is to protect shareholder and stakeholder interests. There are several demographic characteristics of boards, such as independence, female directors, the separation of CEO and chairperson. Boards are responsible for monitoring the management and providing it with strategic advice. Board effectiveness can be measured by gathering board characteristics that contribute to the aim of corporate governance under the shareholder perspective. We found that board effectiveness positively affects the transparency of sustainability reports. As for the literature review and hypothesis development, research on board effectiveness has mostly relied on classical theory of corporate governance, such as agency, stewardship, and resource dependence theories. Board effectiveness depends on how well the boards perform their monitoring and strategic advisory roles. Board characteristics determining board effectiveness can be grouped into three categories: size, internal functioning, and composition. These three types of board characteristics are crucial to determine board effectiveness based on the shareholder perspective. Regarding board size, it is highlighted that corporate governance rating systems agree on limiting the maximum number of directors because large boards are suboptimal, whereas small boards enhance participation, involvement, and cohesiveness. The average board size is within 5 to 9 members. Board meetings and board committees are the most analysed issues in relation to the internal functioning of boards. Board meetings are a procedural aspect that improves board effectiveness, and they are used as a proxy for board activity. Other than that, corporate governance rating system and codes of best practices promote the establishment of different committees to improve board effectiveness. Board composition distinguishes four main issues: independence, CEO duality, presence of women, and directors' experience. There are positive relationships between independence and the board's monitoring and strategic advisory roles as a means to protect the shareholder interest. Therefore, board independence improves financial performance under the right conditions. CEO duality has a negative effect on financial performance. Concluded that firms with CEO duality are more likely to go bankrupt, which implies that it jeopardizes corporate survival. The presence of female directors is an important driver of board effectiveness. Women are more sensitive to the interests of others and usually consider the perspective of multiple parties, in which their influence reflects to positive financial performance. Directors' profiles are also a key element of board composition. Directors' experience also improves the monitoring and strategic roles of boards. Last but not least, we can propose the following hypothesis. Board effectiveness under the shareholder perspective positively affects the stakeholder perspective of the firm's corporate governance. Thank you. That's all from me. Moving on to the next presenter.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Amir Shafiq. I talk about methodology of the article. The methodology of the article comprises of three parts, which is sample and data collection, variables, and statistical analysis. Now, I will talk about sample and data collection. Information on boards of directors, sustainability reports, and firm characteristics was collected from the Asset4 database, the Global Reporting Initiative, GRI, and corporate webpage. Asset4 database collects and uses data from corporate reports and websites, as well as from other publicly available sources to offer transparent, objective, auditable, and systematic information about economic, environmental governance, and social matters to assess firm performance. GRI database is based on the information presented by the firms that publish sustainability report following the GRI guidelines. Now we move on to the variables of the article. There are three variables comprised in the article, which are dependent variable, independent variable, and control variable. The transparency of sustainability report is the reflection of four characteristics assessing the content and quality of sustainability report following GRI guidelines. The characteristics are frequency of reporting, level of application of GRI guidelines, declaration of level, declaration of assurance. Next is independent variable of the article. Board effectiveness, based on the shareholder perspective of corporate governance, is the independent variable. According to the literature review, formative measurement model were established using the board characteristic determining board effectiveness as indicators. Specifically, the formative indicators are size and independence of the board, CEO duality, presence of women on boards, directors' experience, number of meetings, and the establishment of specific board committees. But other elements could be captured unrelated to board effectiveness if the relative measurement model being used. Thus, a formative measurement model for board effectiveness was seemingly better. Next, I will talk about control variables. Three additional variables were included: firm size, industry, country orientation. Control for their effect on the stakeholder perspective of the firm's corporate governance, measured as the transparency of the sustainability report. Prior research agreed on a positive effect of firm size on CSR reporting. Companies that operate in environmentally sensitive industries disclose better CSR information. Finally, firms from countries with a stakeholder-oriented system of corporate governance provide more transparent and reliable information by means of assuring their sustainability report than do those from countries with a shareholder-oriented system of corporate governance. Last part of the methodology is the statistical analysis. Dependent and independent variables are two latent constructs that cannot be measured directly. Therefore, structural equation model analysis being used to test the influence of board effectiveness on the stakeholder perspective. In this study, partial least request regression (PLS), a variance-based method, were opted for the following reasons. First, a formative latent variable was included that can only be modeled using a PLS. Secondly, PLS focused on the prediction of the dependent variable. Hence, it may be preferably used for a casual predictive analysis. And finally, PLS required soft distributional assumption for the data which make it applicable to a wide range of samples. Okay, that's all from me. Thank you. I will pass to the next presenter.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Ahmad Tahsin Ilahi, and today I am going to talk about results, which includes descriptive model, measurement model, and structural model. Let's talk about their definition. Descriptive model. A descriptive model is used to summarize the indicators between the continuous variables and dichotomous variables. Measurement model. This equation quantifies the association between the observation obtained during the research and the theoretical underlying construct. It is of two types, formative construct and reflective construct. Structural model. This equation includes a set of mathematical models, computer algorithmic and statistical data.
Descriptive model. This type of model was studied with respect to the stakeholder perspective. We concluded that the firms published a sustainability report in 30.3% of the analyzed years on average, but only 7.41% firms were able to achieve A level of the GRI guidelines. When board effectiveness was taken into concern, 48.7% of the board were in average range 5 to 9 members, of which women and outsiders represented approximately 78.6% on average. However, only 55.1% of the boards had established the CG, while CSR committee had been established to approximately 57.6% of the boards. Measurement model. Formative construct, reflective construct. A sample study was conducted on firm performance taking into criteria ROA, ROE, MTB so as to establish a relationship between the formative construct. The path coefficient derived in the case study though were of small magnitude but did hold a significant value because of the large size of the sample. The reflective measurement model has been refined using indicators which reflect behavior of control variables. The model was assessed based on 2 points: reliability and validity. To fulfill individual item reliability, all of the reflective indicators were required to have an indicator variance loading value above threshold 0.7. In terms of validity, convergent validity was taken into consideration. We observed that AVE should be above 0.5. Thus, as depicted by statistical analysis of both formative and reflective construct measurement models, one can arrive at the conclusion that measurement model for board effectiveness is valid.
Let's move on to the structural model. As we can observe from the figure that R square evaluates the predictive power of the structure, which is 31.9%. As observed, the confidence interval shows 4 variables, which has the positive and significance influence on the stakeholders' perspective. As we can see in the figure that the board effectiveness has the most important effect on the corporate governance. As we can conclude from the above analysis that the boards who are able to protect shareholder values are also better in responding to the interests of the firm's stakeholders as well.
Thank you. That's all from me. Moving on to the next presenter.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Shafiq Iqbal bin Muhammad Effendi. Now let's proceed with the last part, which is discussion and conclusion part. In discussion, first, board effectiveness benefits. The transparency of sustainability report as a proxy for the stakeholder perspective of the firm corporate governance. This shows that the board successful in protecting shareholder value and interest of other stakeholders. Besides that, board of socially responsible firm have more outside and female director, and their CEO is less likely to be the chairperson than board is non-socially responsible companies consistent with report on government. Firm more likely to use CSR activities as if good practice of CSR lead to high financial performance. This support by the author's result and the report by Web 2004. Next, the shareholder and the stakeholder perspective not be considered as opposing approaches. In shareholder perspective, corporate governance mechanism should only contribute to protecting shareholder interest and increasing firm value, while in stakeholder perspective, the firm's corporate governance mechanism should guarantee the interest of all the stakeholders. Based on the result and a few more reports, larger companies are more likely to offer more transparent CSR information. Let's proceed with the next part, conclusion. This part is divided into 2 parts, which are result on whether board effective is protecting shareholder interests, are also effective in guaranteeing the interests of the rest of the firm stakeholder, and contribution of paper. In the first part, author developed a measure of board effectiveness which use transparency of sustainability report as a proxy for the stakeholder perspective. Furthermore, firms that operate in environmental sensitive industry and that are from countries with a stakeholder-oriented system of corporate governance are more likely to address the interests of all the firm stakeholders. And for the last part, for contribution of the paper, first attempt to capture and measure board effectiveness in a single variable, which the author established a measurement model for board effectiveness using the demographic characteristic of boards previously found to have affected board task performance. Lastly, results have implication for policymakers because introducing this recommendation, codes may improve board effectiveness to protect the interests of all the stakeholders of a company. With that, I will end our presentation. Thank you.